We have and we will continue to talk a lot about the Panthers and what they're going to do with that 8th overall pick. And I started my deep film today, and I can tell you, Jalen Walker, I'm much, much more excited about now than I was 6 hours ago. Edge rush or linebacker. Can be an edge, but linebacker from Georgia.
Defensive weapon.
But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about what they're going to do in the 2nd round.
Ooh, let's get to round 2.
Round 2. They have, by the way, the 8th overall pick. They have the 25th pick of the 2nd round. That's the 57th overall from the Rams. They also have the 10th pick of the 3rd round. It's the 74th. Two 4th rounders, 3 5th rounders, and a 7th. But we're focusing in on that 57th pick overall. The Rams' 2nd rounder that they received and kind of in the trade back last year. That kind of completes their draft. And I have to give you this. And do you know what, Panther fans? Let us know in the YouTube live stream comments if you even want to go this way. I think there will be wide receivers that'll be good values available. And I think you need wide receivers. And the reason why I say, do you even want to go down that path, is because the Panthers have a horrendous track record of drafting 2nd round wide receivers.
Not good lately.
Jonathan Mingo, 39th overall pick. That was in 2023. Terrace Marshall Jr., 59th overall pick, 2nd rounder. That was in 2021. Curtis Samuel, the 40th overall pick. That was in 2017. Slightly better than the others, but still not what you're hoping for.
No.
If you want to go back even further, Dwayne Jarrett, Kerry Colbert. If you want to count Xavier Legette, I'd be open to it because you had the 33rd and you traded up one spot to go get him at 32. Technically a 1st rounder, but I'm not so sure if you would have sat at 33, you couldn't have snagged him. That's not exactly a track record of super-duper excitement. So to hear me come out and go, what should we do with the 2nd? I think there's going to be some good wide receiver values available. If you recoiled a bit, I completely understand. Now, I'm also somebody that, I'm going to try to make the statistics argument real quick. And keep in mind, I did take 2 statistics classes in college and then got the heck out of business school.
That's fair.
So incomplete is my statistics knowledge. But, when you flip a coin, it lands heads. Flip a coin, it lands heads. Flip a coin, it lands heads. It feels like it should be more likely to land tails the next time. But in actuality, it's the next time you flip it, it's still 50-50. It's going to be heads or tails. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this, where it's like, if you draft a wide receiver in the 2nd and it went horrible, draft a wide receiver in the 2nd and it went horrible, draft a wide receiver in the 2nd and it went horrible, part of you is going we're due. Part of you is going, why would we do that? Where obviously it always happens incorrectly. When in actuality, the percentages are the same, right? If you find and evaluate a good wide receiver and you draft them, this evaluation is not impacted by the previous evaluations. What Terrace Marshall did to hurt you can't affect Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Michael Golden or Matthew Golden if he falls, or Trey Harris or any of the wide receivers who might be available in the 2nd. Which, by the way, Mushin Muhammad was also a 2nd rounder. Steve Smith Sr. was a 3rd. So you go back a little bit further, you open up your mind, your brain a little bit more, it's not as bad. Here's what I think we have to decide when we're talking 2nd round. Dan Morgan, the GM, in his first draft was aggressive. Last year was the first time he was the head guy. He was the head GM. He wasn't the assistant, wasn't the scout, wasn't the guy who you run stuff by. He was the guy who does the running. He was aggressive. Traded up into the 1st, as I mentioned. Even after trading back and getting the 2nd rounder from the Rams, traded back up to go get Jonathan Brooks. So I wouldn't say it necessarily worked out. So the question is, what kind of person is Dan Morgan? Right? I expect there to be a reaction. Either, you know what? I'm going to sit and be patient and let the draft come to me because last year I went and got my guys. Didn't work out as good. Or the opposite. Or I'm a go-get-your-guy, and I'm going to double down on the strategy, and Jonathan Brooks, knee be darned. If I want somebody in the mid-2nd and I have the 57th pick, sorry, let me make sure I had that right. Yeah, I have the 57th pick. Well, that's why I have an army of 4ths and 5ths, so I can go get it. That's what we have to decide. Because I think right at the top of the second, there's going to be edge rushers, borderline elite. Right? The ones that have the one fatal flaw. James Pierce Jr. seems to be falling for some reason. If he falls into the second, I can't imagine him lasting past the 35th pick. Mike Green, due to he's the edge rusher from Marshall. James Pierce, the edge rusher from Tennessee. If he falls due to some off-the-field concerns, I can't imagine he's there past the 35th pick. If you want those guys, you're going to have to go get them. Certain wide receivers, I think, might fall into the second, but not to the 59th pick. Does Dan Morgan say, that's the one, I want him, and I don't care about the price? Or does he say, you know what, let's be patient, it's a deep draft, somebody will be there for us. Somebody will be there at 59 that will have value, and we won't have to give anything up, and we can keep all those dart throws in the 4th and 5th to fill out a roster and build a stable of youth. That's what I think it comes down to. Because, like I said, right, and I've talked about this quite a bit, there are wide receivers that are impressive. Right? There's kind of this top 5 out there of, do we call Travis Hunter a wide receiver? What do we do there?
Yes.
Do we include him in what, like, is Tet McMillan and Emeka Egbuka fighting for the 2 spot or the 1 spot? This is literally
good question.
This is literally
good
just
question.
verbiage. It's just verbiage. Because either way, Travis Hunter will be drafted near the top 3-4.
I mean, he's a unicorn.
And then from there, Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka. There's some like Luther Burden out of Missouri, some like Matthew Golden out of Texas, some like Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. There's this bunch of wide receivers there that's good. I think there's going to be a couple that make it into the 2nd round. So I'm almost like this, talking about what the Panthers are going to do in the second. If they take a wide receiver, I hope they trade up to get him. If they take an edge rusher, I kind of hope they sit and wait. Because I think there are enough edges to wait, and I think there are wide receivers that I tier break somewhere between the top of the 2nd and the 59th pick. And if they're going off the beaten path, if they want to go, because what did Dan Morgan say, right? They're going best player available, offense, defense, didn't matter. If they go to a position that we don't expect them to go to, then obviously it's tough to predict, right? If they want to go, well, actually, you know what? If there's a safety, if there's Makuba from Texas, if there's Ransom, like whoever they like, if they go safety, I think there's a 59th pick could be a very good pick for a safety.
I'm wondering if, for example, Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame, is sitting there at like 47, 48, that they don't move up. I don't think they pick at 57. I think their prime spot to move up to that somewhere between 45 and 50 to move up, especially, again, Xavier Watts falls down, he might be your starting free safety.
Oh, whoever,
upcoming season.
If they draft a 2nd round safety,
yeah,
I am like maybe not Sharpie, but something in ink writing them into the starting lineup. Which, again, similarly, if you're drafting a starter, you don't want to. If you know whoever we're taking in the 2nd is going to be our starting safety. If you take, say, an edge rusher or a wide receiver in the 1st, and you don't have a solution in free agency to safety, you might be saying, all right, our safety is a starter. Whoever we take next, you don't want that to be, well, it's our 3rd favorite. Like you want it to be your guy. So I'm fine with going up to get that, assuming there's a tier break. As long as you're not looking at Watts, Makuba, and Castro from Iowa is another name people like. If you're looking at those 3 and saying, we kind of like them all, all have plus, they all have minus, but they're all good players, then I'm fine with sitting. But if there's one of those you like above the rest, go get them. And by the way, I think one of the 2 studs might fall into the 2nd. Emanwari or Starks from Georgia. Just because safety's not a premium position, if you can go get him at 34, I think there's a tier break after those 2.
Feels like Starks is the one that will slip into the 2nd round, just because of the workout that even Wari put in. We just lit it up.
And Starks halfway through this season would have been above everybody at safety, so I'd be fine starting him.
100%.
It's not like he was,
absolutely.
Not like he was slow. He was over a 1/10 of a second slower in the 40 than Emanwari, but we're at 4.5 at 205 pounds, 207 pounds, whatever it was.
Let me pose this question to you.
I love it.
I asked Chris Lee this question on Panthers Playbook this past week, and it was really good discussion online about it.
We'll see if Chris and I align.
If you feel like there's a ton of depth at edge rusher in this draft, and hey, you know what? At 57, there's someone that was going to be available that we are going to like that we can plug in and play. And if you want a top-tier pass catcher, who's to say you don't draft Tyler Warren from Penn State at 8 and then go ahead and sit and wait in the second round or even possibly move up a little bit in the second round to get an edge rusher? You're like, no I'm going to get a top-end pass catcher that also can help me in the run game too at number 8. Like, what stops you from doing that?
Well, first of all, I mean, nothing stops me. And we talked about it on Friday a bit, saying if you want a true number one receiver, pass catcher, you might have to go tight end because I think there's 2 that are good, and there's really not a top-end wide receiver in this class, at least not by my estimation, other than Travis Hunter. I would have to see – there's a few things about Tyler Warren that make me a bit nervous for drafting him for what the Panthers need. Doesn't run a super versatile route tree, and 1-year breakout. He had a bananas final year at Penn State. Before that, not a ton of production, and that makes me a little bit worried. When your team was bananas good and you went on the CFP run and you had 2 NFL running backs running down everyone's throats and all of these things, you broke out. 8 might be a little rich for my blood, is what I'm saying there. If I could trade back and get him at 16 and know that I'm getting him or Loveland, I'm more comfortable with that and might pick up some draft capital. 8 might be a little rich for either of them. But if you think the thing that's separating you from like competing for a division is a number 1 pass catcher, somebody that you can build the offense around through the air, I like both tight ends more than I think I like every wide receiver not named Travis Hunter. And I don't even know if I should say wide receiver named Travis Hunter.
Unicorns.
Yeah, just that guy. But it's not a bad thought. And I do think there will be edge rushers available in the second. So being creative with the first. But last point, and I know we got to move on. I don't love letting the tail wag the dog, meaning I don't love my second-round pick deciding who I take with my first-round pick. I like it when the reverse happens, right? Let my elite player figure out what's solved, and then everything else can go in. Saying, like, I think we could get a starter in the second at this position prevents me from getting the best player available at 8. I'd rather it to be reversed. That's just kind of theory and philosophy, though. I know it doesn't always work out in practice.